Enlightenment Now: The Case for Reason, Science, Humanism, and Progress by Steven Pinker, 556 pp. Viking. $35. Optimism is not generally thought cool, and it is often thought foolish. The optimistic philosopher John Stuart Mill wrote in 1828, "I have observed that not the man who hopes when others despair, but the man who despairs when others hope, is admired by a large class of persons as a sage." In the previous century, Voltaire's Candide had attacked what its author called optimism, the Leibnizian idea that all must be for the best in this best of all possible worlds. After suffering through one disaster after another, Candide decides that optimism is merely a mania for insisting that all is well when things are going badly. Yet one might argue, and Steven Pinker does, that the philosophy Voltaire satirizes here is not optimism at all. If you think this world is already as good as it gets, then you just have to accept it. A true optimist would say that, although human life will never be perfect, crucial aspects of it can improve if we work at it, for example by refining building standards and seismological predictions so that fewer people die in earthquakes. It's not best, but it is surely better. This optimist's revenge on Candide is one of the passing pleasures in Enlightenment Now, Pinker's follow-up to his 2011 book The Better Angels of Our Nature. The earlier work assembled banks of data in support of his argument that human life is becoming, not worse as many seem to feel, but globally safer, healthier, longer, less violent, more prosperous, better educated, more tolerant and more fulfilling. His new book makes the same case with updated statistics, and adds two extra elements. First, it takes into account the recent rise of authoritarian populism, especially in the form of Donald Trump, a development that has led some to feel more despairing than ever. Second, it raises the polemical level with a rousing defense of the four big ideas named in the subtitle: progress, reason, science, and humanism, the last being defined not mainly in terms of non-theism, though Pinker argues for that, too, but as the goal of maximizing human flourishing life, health, happiness, freedom, knowledge, love, richness of experience. Who could be against any of that? Yet humanism has been seen in some quarters as unfashionable, or unachievable, or both. Pinker wants us to take another look. Much of the book is taken up with evidence-based philosophizing, with charts showing a worldwide increase in life expectancy, a decline in life-shattering diseases, ever better education and access to information, greater recognition of female equality and LGBT rights, and so on, even down to data showing that Americans today are 37 times less likely to be killed by lightning than in 1900, thanks to better weather forecasting, electrical engineering and safety awareness. Improvements in health have bettered the human condition enormously, and Pinker tells us that his favorite sentence in the whole English language comes from Wikipedia: smallpox was an infectious disease caused by either of two virus variants, variola major and variola minor. The word was is what he likes. He later adds that he could have ended every chapter by saying, "But all this progress is threatened if Donald Trump gets his way." Trumpism risks knocking the world backward in almost every department of life, especially by trying to undo the international structures that have made progress possible: peace and trade agreements, health care, climate change accords, and the general understanding that nuclear weapons should never be used. All this is now in question. Pinker is particularly sharp on the dangers of ignoring or overriding the systems that make nuclear war unlikely. Having said this, he argues that catastrophism is itself a risk, that is, the pessimistic tendency to fix on the worst imaginable outcome, and to panic. Authoritarian populism itself has fed on the feeling that everything is going wrong, that crime and terrorism have run amok, that immigration is disastrous, and that the world has lost its ethical direction in some terrible way. Meanwhile, fear and despair play havoc with the opposition too. In general, people are more likely to work constructively if they think problems are solvable, or that progress has already been made and can be extended. As Pinker says, considering the fact that we have not yet blown the world up in a nuclear war, our best approach is to figure out what has gone right, so we can do more of whatever it is. Optimism does not mean lying back and relaxing. He cites the economist Paul Romer, who distinguishes the complacent optimism of a child waiting for presents with the conditional optimism of a child who wants a treehouse, and gets hold of the wood and nails to make one. Someone who thinks a treehouse is impossible, or assumes someone will instantly come and knock it down, is unlikely ever to start hammering. This book will attract some hammering itself. It contains something to upset almost everyone. When not attacking the populist right, Pinker lays into leftist intellectuals. He is especially scathing about newspaper editorialists who, in 2016, fell over themselves in their haste to proclaim the death of Enlightenment values and the advent of post-truth. His, rather too broadly painted, targets include humanities professors, postmodernists, the politically correct, and anyone who has something nice to say about Friedrich Nietzsche. Progressive thinkers seem to consider progress a bad thing, he claims. They reject as crass or naive the notion that we should apply our collective reason to enhance flourishing and reduce suffering. In fact, there may already be signs of a change in mood, with chirps of optimism being heard from varied directions. The musician David Byrne has just launched a web project entitled Reasons to be Cheerful, celebrating positive initiatives in the realms of culture, science, transportation, civic engagement, and so on. Quartz, a business journalism site, ended 2017 with a list of 99 cheerful links to the year's good news: snow leopards being taken off the endangered species list, a province in Pakistan planting 1 billion trees over the last 2 years as a response to the 2015 floods, a dramatic fall in sufferers from the hideous guinea worm, from 3.5 million in 1986 to just 30 in 2017, and a slow but steady increase in women holding parliamentary seats worldwide, from 12% in 1997 to 23%. Now. Bertrand Russell once pointed out that maintaining a sense of hope can be hard work. In the closing pages of his autobiography, with its account of his many activist years, he wrote, "To preserve hope in our world makes calls upon our intelligence and our energy. In those who despair, it is frequently the energy that is lacking." Steven Pinker's book is full of vigor and vim, and it sets out to inspire a similar energy in its readers. He cites one study of negativity bias that says a critic who pans a book is perceived as more competent than a critic who praises it. I will just have to take that risk. Enlightenment Now strikes me as an excellent book, lucidly written, timely, rich in data, and eloquent in its championing of a rational humanism that is, it turns out, really quite cool.